So here I am with Jeff, and we're talking about this is our first coaching session together. We're talking about how to make these coaching sessions valuable to Jeff and to his company. And one of the things I said before we started recording is that hopefully Jeff, over the next few months, will be able to integrate me very closely into his decision making on everything except, life coaching, which we talked about. I don't do that, but all the business decisions, real estate decisions that you're going to make, you refer them to me if you feel like it, and you integrate your coach into your decision making. He or she can often add quite a bit, and hopefully, the one of the most important things in business, as you know, Jeff, is to reduce the number of mistakes you make.
Exactly.
In hockey, one of our first coaches here in Ottawa, his name was Jacques Martin, and he was a genius in terms of defensive play. And he could get a bunch of pylons into the playoffs. He could. And the way he did that, Jacques would tell me, for example, he would say, Bruce, for every goal you prevent, that's 2 you don't have to score. All right. And I learned a lot from Jacques and from, my hockey days. And I listen to people, as you know, carefully and pick and choose what I want to, what sticks with me. But he's absolutely right. For every goal you prevent, it's 2 you don't have to score to win the game. And it's the same in business. So hopefully you integrate me into your into your business day-to-day and week-to-week business. And I'll help you make fewer mistakes, as well as identify opportunities. But just having revenues is great, and growing revenues is great. But if you're shoveling the money out the door because you made a bunch of mistakes, exactly. It's a lot harder. Okay. So one of the other questions that Jeff asked me in his agenda is, how do these corporations, how do you structure them? And one of the companies that I've had quite a few dealings with over the years is Colonnade-Bridgeport. And here's how Colonnade-Bridgeport structures themselves. There's the land development company, which acquires sites and does, a lot of the zoning work, if not all of the zoning work. And then they also do the construction and much more. So there's a whole land development company, which is a very broad range of services. But in addition to that, they have a property management division. And the holy grail of business, every business, Jeff, tech business, shoe store, I don't know if shoe stores can do it, but tech businesses, real estate businesses is committed monthly recurring revenues, right?
Yeah.
CMRR. It's the holy grail. I don't know how you would do it with shoes, but you can't rent shoes or lease shoes, and I suppose you don't get monthly revenues from that. But certainly if you think about Microsoft, I subscribe, my wife and I subscribe to, I think it's called Office 365 or Microsoft 365.
Yep.
Do you know how many users they have?
No.
I think it's around 500 million users.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
It's something like that. Just a few more than the clients than I have, right? And so say they have 500 million, and it's about $14 or $15 a month to subscribe. Well, $15 times 500 million is, I think, $7.5 billion a month in revenue.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's crazy,
It is.
So the guys at Colonnade-Bridgeport, they've been doing this for a long time, and they're very, very, very smart. So they have the land development side, they have the property management side, but they have one other component that's incredibly important, and that's why I wanted to start with that question first. And that is, they also have a fund that they manage. Okay. The fund is, I think, about $750 million. Maybe it's a little bigger than that now. I don't know. I've forgotten. So when they see an opportunity, they can tie up a site, right? Conditional, usually. They can put it through all kinds of pro formas and testing. But if they decide, yes, we're going to go ahead with this, they can look for the investors that they need from their fund, right? So I don't have to tell you, if, let's say you and I, again, we were doing, I don't know, a little 25-unit apartment building, and it was going to cost us, I don't know, $6 million, and we need, say, $2 or $3 million of investor money. It takes a long time to do that, right?
It does, yeah.
I mean, by the time a few months have gone by, our knees are worn out from begging, right?
Yeah,
We should wear those signs that, that you see on the street, we'll work for food.
exactly.
It's tough, but what they do and what they have been doing for, decades now is they have a real estate investment trusts, pension funds, wealthy individuals who have put their money into a fund, which is managed separately.
Yes.
It has its own board of directors. It has its own staffing, right?
Mhm.
And so even though they're investing in their own projects, they have to be approved by an independent board.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
So you can't just, it's got to say there's $750 million there and you want to buy a nice place in Mexico. You just can't go and take the money and run off to Mexico, right? It has to be approved. And they run the fund, Jeff, they run the fund as a profit center in and of itself.
Yeah.
And they run the property management company in and of itself.
Yeah.
And they run the land development company in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, I'm not finished. And they run the construction company as a separate entity as well.
Yeah.
4 entities.
Yeah.
Okay, what are they?
What are they? So the construction, land development, their property management, and their fund.
There you go. So I want you to write that down, because that is going to, I mean, if you're going to go into this business in a big way, which I think you are, and I fully support that, I don't want you to go broke. Okay? Because remember, I told you there's 4 ways to get poor, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just put it on the record. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but it's not really. Number 1 is to get divorced. Number 2 is to buy a horse ranch. Number 3 is to buy an NHLT. And out of those 3, as you know, I only did 1, which was buy an NHLT. They lose money, at least in my experience. The 4th one I added fairly recently was to become a land developer. So what we're trying to talk about today is how to de-risk that. All right, at least part of what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 divisions. I should probably put them in here too, so I remember next time I talk about this. I'll just put down A, land development division.
Yeah, so I guess we're kind of for those four different divisions. Kind of that's kind of where we're aiming to be, actually. Like, we got the construction division. We're just starting land development division, and then once we get enough units, the plan is to start a property management division.
Yep. Okay. Now, and what we're trying to do here is we're trying to go 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equals, I'm just going to make up a number, equals 5 or 7, and you're going to ask me, well, what does that equation mean, and I'll show you what it means, just to make sure we know that. I often write the equation a little bit differently. 1 + 1 equals 3, or sometimes I write it, or when does, what do I say? Yeah, 1 = 2, right? So, I mean, synergy is an overused word, but we're gonna come back to this slide in a minute. But let me give you an example of when 1 + 1 = 3. All right. And I was a very good mathematician, so my equation actually will make sense, I think, in a minute or two. So I coach some quite large home builders, right? And some small ones too, and medium-sized ones, but some very large ones. And one in particular, which has been around again for decades, I was coaching them, and I noticed that their land development division and their home building business were all sort of like in one bowl, right? They weren't separate divisions, Jeff. And I recommended to them that they separate them out. And they said, well, that would be a lot of work. And why would we do that? Because I wanted them to separate them out physically as well.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted them, to be at least a floor apart in one of their buildings. and they were not really keen on. I said 1 + 1 will equal 3, and I'll tell you why. They were profitable, but what was happening was, you probably know that the gross profit margin in the home building business is about 13 to 15%, right?
Mhm.
Which isn't really all that much. So on a $700,000 house, maybe they make $100,000.
Yeah.
But the problem was, they were transferring the land in at cost, right? I mean, they were, whatever the land cost is what the cost, including to buy the damn thing, to take it through the planning process and finance it, whatever else you have, the staffing, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, no, what you should do is you should have a land development division that sells to your home building business at the retail price, if you just were to sell it to another builder.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you know this stuff, but I want to make sure that it's really nailed into your head. Yeah. And they said, well, why would we do that? Why would we charge a retail price? Because I said, then you should be selling it to other people, because back then they could get $2,000 or $2,500 per frontage foot, and their cost on that was $1,500. Basically, they were losing $1,000 for every frontage foot by selling it or keeping it for their own development.
Yeah,
it made no sense. I said, just sell it to third parties, forget your home building division. And they said, well, we don't want to do that. I said, I know you don't. So eventually, they did separate it up. It took a couple of years. Their profitability went through the roof.
In both companies, or just
in both companies? Because the home building business was properly pricing their product. They were underpricing. They could undercut.
They weren't. Oh, so they're transferred over, but they weren't taken into that price. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you think about it, they were selling a house for, say, $700,000, and their competitors were selling it for $800,000. So their volume was great, but their profitability was crap.
Yeah.
And they were it was so stupid. And as you know, bankers and lawyers and accountants think they know something about business. Breaking news: they don't know anything about business. Nothing. They know something about banking. They know something about accounting, and they know something about the legal business, but they don't know anything about business. They're complete posers. And their accountants and their bankers and their lawyers are all saying this is too complicated. I said, no, it's simpler.
It's funny. We went through something very similar to that. We just started the home building division probably 2 years ago now. Just because we couldn't find any good builders for our lots at the time, and our controller for Sierra, he's kind of involved in the home building, and same thing. When we mention that kind of stuff, he goes, no, it's like, because it creates more work for him, right?
Yeah, well, too bad.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and now I'm their favorite coach, because I've made them millions and millions of dollars, which I'm pleased about, of course. But it took almost 3 years to make 2 years for them. Once they decided to make the change, it took them 2 years to implement, and it took me a year to finally convince them that 1 + 1 would equal 3, or when does 1 equal 2, and it's really worked out well, and it's much easier to manage.
Oh yeah,
much easier, because if you give somebody their own bottom line, guess what? They pay attention.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, perfect. I'm glad you understand. So let's go back to the Colonnade-Bridgeport model, and let me explain what they do. So when they buy a piece of land, and they're going to take it through the process, they always sell it into the project with a lift. So if they bought a piece of land I helped them buy a piece of land here in Ottawa for $11.5 million. They don't put it into the project for $11.5 million. They put it in with a lift. And then once they get the zoning in place, and they have their site plan agreement or their subdivision agreement, whatever is required, there's another lift. And then, of course, there is a margin they try and make in construction, whatever the margin is. Then, in addition to that, they do the property management, and they take a piece of the pie from the property management. In addition to that, at least 6 of their people are licensed realtors. They're on staff, but they're licensed realtors, and they take leasing fees, right? So if they lease a office space or retail space, or for that matter, an apartment, they keep part of the commission structure, right?
How do they get a lift? Like, what do you mean by, so let's say they bought that $11 million parcel of land. So when would they get that lift on that land?
So let's think again about the overall structure, right? So they go from the ideation phase, all the way through to construction and leasing and everything else, right? And over somewhere up here is that investment fund who's providing the money, and from their group of investors, wealthy individuals, REITs, pension funds, whatever. And so let's say they buy a property for 11 million, and they're going to put it into the project for, say, 13.5 million. They make a $2.5 million lift on it. They're selling it into that, and they're taking $2.5 million when they do their funding.
Oh, okay. So they buy it through their, like, land development company to the
Exactly.
fund?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
They're buying it in their own name, Colonnade-Bridgeport in trust.
Okay.
And then
they do it.
Putting it into project X, project Y, project Z, whatever. They're putting into that project at say 13.5 million, and so they're getting an extra 2 or 2.5 million at that point.
Oh, okay.
All right. They're paid for their land use planning work, right? So
and then when it goes, same thing when it goes to construction, and their construction will take their management fee or
whatever. They're making 10, 11, 12 points maybe on construction if they're lucky. Then when they do the leasing, they get paid for that. Typically, if you rented an apartment for 2,000,
the property management company.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so and with Colonnade-Bridgeport, they are holding on to between 10 and 35% of a typical project for free. So at the end of the day, not in every project, but most of them, they retain a minimum of 10% and sometimes about as much as a third, basically for free, right? Because they're originating most of their projects. Sometimes clients will come to them, Jeff, and they'll say, look, we have a piece of land in Winnipeg. We want to develop it for this, this, and this, and we'd like you to be our development manager. Then they don't get all of these lifts on that project because they're not initiating it, right? He or she who controls the land controls everything. Right? I mean, you and I could come up with 100 ideas for really cool projects, but we don't have a site to build it on. It's just you won't get paid for ideas. You get paid for controlling the land. So where they control the land, which is probably by far the majority of their projects, they get all or most of these lifts. Okay. But if you're just being paid as a development manager, that's a little bit different. And they'll do some of that work too, because then if they do a good job as a development manager for, say, a big REIT based in Winnipeg, then presumably that REIT will say, oh, I really like these guys, and they'll put some money into the fund.
Exactly. Okay.
Not just it depends, right? I'm painting the rosiest possible picture here. All right, so it's been a tremendous success, and I wanted to show you, because most people have no friggin' idea how to do property management. Okay, and I'm just going to show you that, and I'm going to turn it back to you. I promise not to talk for 2 hours, but I want to show you. I coach a lot of companies, and some small ones, some medium-sized ones, some bigger ones, and most of them really don't know how to do property management. And I'm sure your guys are pretty smart, but we're going to have it on recording. Like I said, I'll put it on YouTube. It's unlisted. You'll have it. If you want to refer to it, you can. So basically, typically, whether it's commercial or residential, Colonnade-Bridgeport would charge between 6 and 8% of revenues. There's always a property manager out there that will do it for 4, 4.5, or 5%. There is, but one of the things that the people I coach will say is, you ask 100 landowners or property owners if they like their property management company, I'll bet you 80 or 90% of them will hate them.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is they don't charge enough. And so when a tenant calls, commercial or residential, you can't really answer the call because you just lose money on every call.
Exactly.
So, my clients will charge 6 to 8%.
Yeah.
For every lease, this is residential, but for every residential apartment, you're renting an apartment for $2,000, they'll get a half a month for themselves per year of lease term. And for residential, we try and do 2-year lease terms.
Yeah.
So if you had, say, some of my clients have like over 30,000 units, and if you had to do 30,000 new leases every year, that would be crazy. So if you do 2-year lease terms, you've reduced the amount of work you have to do.
Yeah.
And I have them all put in an increase in year 2, whatever the allowable increase is. If you're in Ontario, if you're in Florida, you don't have to worry about that. You could just increase the rent.
Yeah.
All right. So that's quite a good profit center. And then people forget all of this kind of stuff, which you'll see on the rest of my slide here. And that if you, as the property manager, are doing a renovation, a repair, you're maintaining these properties, any kind of, or you're just paying bills on behalf of your client, paying, I don't know, water bills, tack on a 15% admin fee. That's because you got to have a bookkeeper or a controller. You've got to pay your staff.
Exactly.
If you're doing some short-term rentals, or medium-term rentals, you charge more than 6 or 8%. Up to 25% of short-term rentals go to the property manager, and anywhere from 12 to 15% if you're doing medium-term deals, because it's a hell of a lot more work, right?
Yeah.
All right. And this last point is kind of trivial, but one of the things we don't do as property managers is we do not offer rent discounts, or not very often. What we do is we offer some kind of premiums. And what do I mean?
Okay.
What I mean by that is, let's say you were renting me an apartment for $2,000 a month, and you said, Bruce, you're such a nice guy, I'll give you half a month's rent. Oh, I said, great. So, I save $1,000. But believe it or not, Jeff, people will remember a premium, like say a free Costco membership, which costs you maybe $100, more than they will a half month's rent. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll give people, for example, here in Ottawa, I don't know if you have them in Toronto or wherever, if you have Farm Boy, but everybody likes Farm Boy. They got nice things to eat. And so we give people, an $80 gift certificate to go and shop at Farm Boy, or $50, whatever it might be. People will remember that a lot longer than 2 weeks or half a month's free rent.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Okay. I won't keep you too much longer on this subject. We also, in many of our buildings, both commercial and residential, we have our own tech packages. So we bring in bulk internet, and we split it amongst the residential tenants or commercial tenants, and they pay us for that. It's a profit center for us. You'll see point number 3 here is make sure your salespeople are licensed realtors, because then you can enjoy some commission income.
Yeah, true.
Right? For example, when you're a property manager, maybe at some point the property has kind of peaked in value and cash flow is kind of stable but not really increasing. Sometimes it makes sense for your group, your portfolio owners, to sell that project. If you've got licensed realtors, they can put it up for sale on MLS and take a huge commission.
Yeah.
That's part of property management.
Yeah, that's smart.
All right. Maybe there's a few other things here. A few other things here on the top of this slide. Obviously, charge for parking. What else? See if you can get a percentage rent, certainly on the commercial deals, right? That we do. I have one of my industrial buildings. I have an auto mechanic who does car repairs, but he also has a yard in front of my building where he sells cars. And I put in my lease. I get a 4% percentage rent, paid 15 calendar days after the end of each month.
Okay.
And I asked him how many cars he thought he could sell. He said, well, 3 or 4 or 5 a month. And he's licensed by OMVIC to sell cars. So he's legal, right?
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, he was selling 10 to 15 vehicles a month, averaging about $7,000 a vehicle.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, let's say, I mean, on one of our best months, he sells 15 vehicles at 7,000. That's 105,000 in sales, and I got 4% of that. So I got more from my percentage rent, at least during the pandemic, because everybody was buying a used car, right?
Exactly.
Nobody was riding public transit. No, just absolutely nobody. See the buses go by. I live in a suburb. There would be for 3 years, there wasn't a single person on that bus, maybe 1 or 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was making, my best months with my percentage rent. It's probably down to about 1,000 a month. But when it was over 4,000 a month, Jeff, I was making more from my percentage rent than the base rent.
Yeah.
At least a factor of 2.
That's good.
All right. So that's enough of that. So now I'll stop sharing, and I'm going to let you share your screen because I know you want to show me some of the stuff that you do. You're co-host now, so you can share your screen.
So I guess, start with. I guess, so I'll just run through. You can see my screen there.
Perfect.
Just kind of run over the kind of the properties or the land that we own and what we plan to do with them. So this one is, we have a St. Mary's in St. Mary's, Ontario.
Yep.
It's about 3-acre site. Figuring about 143 units on it with 5 stories. So the original plan for this was to do a retirement home.
Wow.
Kind of St. Mary's, nice little town. Kind of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Stratford, Ontario.
Oh, I know it real well. I've got clients in Stratford.
Oh, do you? So it's right down the road from Stratford, and it's very similar kind of feel. Like
wow.
Nice downtown, old stone buildings.
Just let me interrupt you for a second. So my clients in Stratford own something called Hotel Julie.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
Actually, I'm trying to figure out how, but I think it's through you, because I think when I signed up, when I signed up for coaching, when I tried to do it like a year ago, I was still on you sent out emails, and I read that package, so that's how I know.
Hotel Julie is done by a developer group based in Ontario and Florida, and they took a 9 unit bed and breakfast and turned it into the most fantastic Airbnb short-term stay hotel you could imagine.
Yeah. And
there was a CTV, like HGTV series called Staying In, INN.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and very successful series on what these 2 clients of mine were doing in Stratford. Listen to this, Jeff. They're getting $600 a night for each suite.
Oh, nice.
Can you believe it? I couldn't believe it. Like 9 suites, at times 600 is the $5,400, dollars a night, and they're expecting to be about 260 days a year, about $1.4 million a year in gross income from like 9 suites. I couldn't believe it, but it's been going great. So I love Stratford. Keep going.
So just high level. Basically, so this one took, I think we bought this land 2015, and then it took about 5 years to get through the city requirements. St. Mary's, very small town, kind of farm town.
Yeah.
And to get 5 stories, it was originally 8. We settled on 5. It was very difficult. Actually, one of the biggest things holding it up was an old bylaw from the 1800s.
Wow.
Saying that they couldn't have any buildings over 2 stories.
Wow.
Because their fire trucks couldn't reach it.
Well, maybe their fire trucks can reach it.
they can reach it now, but that's what the city was using that old bylaw. And the funny part is they have 3 to 4 story buildings in Stratford already.
Oh, it's
So
ridiculous.
it was more just
It's
the council just wants to keep St. Mary's a small town, right?
I get it. I mean, and you're probably the outsider. They don't really like you.
Exactly.
I don't blame them. That was a joke, by the way. So Jeff, is this site plan approved now?
This is site plan approved. This one's not. So yeah, what happened is it was kind of ready to go, and then the pandemic hit, and retirement homes kind of went down. So now we have like this project's it's kind of it'll be a few. It's kind of just sitting in the back burner. It's nothing's really happening. It probably for another year or two.
Hang on. What are you going to show me now?
Got a full list here.
Go to the next. Sorry, I apologize. Go to the next slide.
Yeah. So another one. This one's a very.
Well, hold on. Can we stay with this for another minute?
Sure.
Okay. So stop showing your screen just for a moment, and I'll see if
I guess. What time is it? I guess I got about 7 more of these.
Yeah, that's okay. But I just want to talk about this for a moment.
Yeah.
Just because it whether it's on the back burner or not, part of my job is to do a brain transplant from me to you.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to comment, and I hope you don't mind. So let's see if I can find it here. Give me 1 second. I apologize for this, but I think it's important for you to see this. There we go. I'm in the right place here. Perfect. All right, I'm there. So Jeff, number one, I know you know this, but I'm going to reinforce it again. Land developers are like sheep. 1 or 2 sheep head in this direction, and pretty soon the entire fleet of land developers goes there. What that means is that land developers have a nasty habit of overbuilding everything. Right? Back in the 80s, it was multiple unit residential buildings, MURBs, with tax shelters. In the 90s, it was office buildings. Everybody was building an office building. Then everybody was building a mega regional mall. Then everybody was building retirement residences, right? And everybody's looking for the next gold mine, right? Yeah. So you have to be very cautious about not following the herd. I don't mind if you lead the herd.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to be the original pioneer. You can be 2nd or 3rd in line, but I don't want you to be 10,000th in line. If you build that retirement residence, you'll be 10,000th in line.
Oh yeah. So retirement, so that's what it is originally for. All the market study is good for that. So now we're still in between. It's I forget what it's called, but it's not a full retirement home, so it doesn't have the care for it, but it has all the amenities of a retirement home. So it's kind of a pre-retirement home. It's got abilities to bring in your own nurses. So it's kind of lowers the overhead significantly. And that's kind of what the market seems to be right now.
Yeah, I'm not saying no. I think that is a better move on your part. When you operate a retirement, this is before the pandemic. I've been saying this for probably 7 or 8 years. When you operate a retirement residence, this is before the pandemic. Your duty of care is so high,
exactly,
that the costs just eat you up.
We've done 3 retirement homes to date, and you're right. That's the big thing we found.
Yeah.
So we've sold all 3.
There you go. You proved my point for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let me just continue, just because this is important stuff here. In our portfolio, we try not to rent to anybody who's really elderly, and we just have apartments, ordinary apartments. We have triplexes and duplexes and a few 10 or 12 plexes and stuff like that. And we're recording this, so I don't make it public, but we do not want to put, even in just a regular apartment, we don't really want to put really elderly people. I got to be careful. I'm getting there too, but we don't really want that because, you know, I've got out of our portfolio, we only have one really elderly person, and I make a point myself to, you know, to check on him every couple of months because he really doesn't have much of a family. I've never seen anybody visit him, so I don't know if he has any children or grandchildren. I don't think so. And he's all alone, and you know, he could pass away in that apartment, and maybe nobody would find him for months, right?
Yeah.
So there, even though it's just a regular apartment, etc., it was my wife and her team who did the leasing. If she'd talked to me about it, I would have said, don't do it. There's a duty of care, and I just, you know, we only have about 150 tenants, so it's not that many, but I make it a personal responsibility to check on him, and I'm very busy. That is an extra burden on me, but I just took it on because I like the guy.
Yeah, fair enough.
And if I have time once a year, I'll drop in, and probably the only guy who would drop in, and he's got to be close to 90. He still has pictures on his computer of pretty girls who are, you know, 20 or 30. I mean, you know, men never get tired of looking at pretty girls, even if they're 90. When you're 90, you might not be able to do much, but you'll be looking at them. It's fun. So, you know, Silvio and I will talk about that. But I wanted to show you something else that I want you to keep in your mind. Oh my God, I just added a moment ago. Maybe it's a picture. Yeah, it is. So I'll share my screen with you. This is a company called Lepin Apartments. And I don't know exactly how many units they have, but would be in the many thousands. Okay. And this is their latest floor plan for a nice 2-bedroom apartment in one of their towers, right? And I'm kind of mad at them. I mean, not really, but, you know, disappointed would be a better word. I'll show you why. This design that you see on the screen here could be improved enormously by the of one door. You with me on that?
Yep.
So what I wanted them to do, and you know, it doesn't matter whether it's a bungalow or it's a 30-story building. What I wanted them to do, here's the hallway here, goes like this and then turns over corner here.
Yeah. If
they put one more door to the hallway here and reconfigured this space, that becomes its own micro suite. Do you understand the importance of that?
Yep.
So let's say this was your building, and an old dude like me comes along and says, I forget about the discrimination thing I talked about earlier. I said, Jeff, could I rent this from you for, I'm just making up the numbers, $2,500 a month.
Yeah. And
you say, sure. So I could live in, this could be my bedroom, my living room, my dining room, kitchen, bath, everything here. And this is a connecting door. I could now have a personal support worker live in this micro suite. So a micro suite has exactly what it sounds like, right? You know that. It has the bathroom, it has the micro kitchen in it, you know, it obviously has the bedroom, it has a little work area there. So it would have to be redesigned, but it could be quite successfully redesigned so that it has its own door to the outside world, basically. And I could come in here, I could rent this, and I could have a personal support worker come and stay here. And, you know, maybe I need help getting dressed or taking my pills or whatever it is. He or she could live here and I could live here. So you could provide the in effect, the support system without you having to do anything other than add one.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense.
Now, wait, it gets better. It's like Veg-O-Matic, right? Late night TV. But wait, I'll give you two. You know, call me now. You get two for the price of one. So there's other alternatives. I do have, Lepin hasn't yet made the jump, but I do have other developers who are doing this. We call this concept, you may have heard of it from me before, we call it gigaplexing these buildings.
No, I haven't.
You can't look it up because it's a term I made up. So gigaplexing, what does that mean? It means basically having a 2-bedroom apartment where 1 bedroom is its own separate lock-off suite. Okay, we call that a gigaplex. And by the way, I got some pushback when we introduced this concept about 8 or 9 years ago from my developer clients who said, "Oh wait, we'll have to pay a second development charge." It turns out you don't. So you've got a 2-bedroom apartment, and in the 2-bedroom apartment, you are allowed to have a second door to the outside world, so to speak. You're allowed to have a wet bar, we call it a wet bar, micro kitchen, and a bathroom. Nothing about that says it's a second unit, as long as this connecting door is there, right? So we've had incredible success with this, both in terms of condo sales and also in terms of rental.
Really?
It's been fantastic. And really, I mean, I've got clients in San Francisco doing it. I've got clients in Boise, Idaho doing it. All right. And elsewhere. So here's how it would work in a little different scenario. Again, I come to you and say, "Can I rent this apartment for $2,500? You're my landlord." You say, "Sure." And you say, "Oh, by the way, Bruce, this second bedroom is really its own micro suite, its own lock-off suite." "Oh, yeah, I saw that. It's really cool. And by the way, in the lease that we're going to do, Bruce, we're going to give you the permission, if you want, to sublet that. If you want to."
Yeah. In
many towns across and cities across North America, towns are making it illegal to do Airbnb. You're aware of that.
Yeah.
Unless you live there. So now I said, "Oh, Jeff, this is awesome. So I can rent this for $2,500, but I have your permission to put this lock-off suite, sublet it if I want, or put it on Airbnb if I want." "Yes, you do." So I've got a client out in White Rock, BC, and BC is like insanely expensive. He built a 5-story building where he did exactly this. And in White Rock, BC, for a micro suite, I can get $225 to $275 a night on Airbnb.
Really?
Yeah. So let's say I put it on Airbnb and I get $250 a night times 20 nights. I'm paying you $2,500 for this 2-bedroom apartment. How much am I making from my short-term rentals? I'm making $5,000 a month. What does that apartment now cost me, Jeff?
As a tenant or landlord?
I'm your tenant. I'm paying you $2,500, but I have your permission in the lease to put my lock-off suite up on Airbnb.
Well, and the $2,500 plus the percentage of that Airbnb suite.
So my cost to rent an apartment from you is now minus $2,500 a month.
Oh yeah, your cost. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now,
because you're such a smart person, you coached with Prof. Bruce once upon a time. You put in there that 20% of any revenues I generate from that subletting goes to you, and 80% comes to me. So instead of me getting $2,500 from Airbnb and keeping it, I get to keep $2,000. Out of the $5,000, I get to keep $4,000 of it. So now my cost of renting your apartment is minus $1,500 a month. Still a great deal for me.
Exactly.
But your rent on this is now $2,500 plus your 20% of my revenues. It's $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
So your rents have gone up by almost 50%. And how much more work are you doing to earn that extra money?
Zero.
Who's going into that Airbnb unit and cleaning it?
Whoever the tenant hires.
Yeah. My responsibility.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It meets the test of almost, including New York City. It meets the test of a true Airbnb or bed and breakfast, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the probably the next few projects. I knew when I put it on the side here, I'm like, you're gonna absolutely love this project that's coming out that I'll show you later on.
I'm gonna hand it back to you, but a lot of our coaching sessions, Jeff, will tend to follow some tangents, but that's because it's creative. Okay.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I don't want you to be disappointed if we're not just linear.
No.
But wait a second, it gets better. You get 3 bedroom attics. when we started doing this, we got a lot of young people who were doing it, but you know what? They were living in the micro suite and renting out the big area.
Oh, really?
I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like we in White Rock, BC, when Paul was doing it, we set it up this way, never thinking that, I mean, if two 20-something-year-olds who are living together, they're perfectly happy in a small space, and they're making even more money by renting this thing out for like $400 a night.
No, this is good because the one building in London, we're kind of between apartments or student residence or something like that, and yeah, and then but also in a section because it's in a really old, cool building, doing kind of we've had a few companies and same thing. They're an Airbnb hotel company, but yeah, this worked out great for students as well too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But the other thing that you'll find with these lock-off suites is home-based businesses in almost every jurisdiction that I work in are legal. So a lot of these people, like I could use that lock-off suite for my coaching practice.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody might be a registered massage therapist. They could use it for their RMT practice. Somebody could be a physiotherapist, an acupuncturist. So
yeah, because another building. That's one of the things we're looking at is work at home building. Like there's specifically designed buildings for working at home. It's got an office to it and everything like that. So yeah, no, that's a great idea. I love it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this picture. This is just be your reminder, okay? I'll put it in the email to you right now. So I'll just give me a second here. It's just a reminder, all right? And all right, so you should get that picture. It's just a reminder. That's all it is. Okay, now back to you. Sorry about cutting you off for 20 minutes.
Oh, no worries.
So when you're going to do the next floor plan, before you go through site plan process, make sure your coach looks at it, okay?
Yeah, 100%. Not sure. I guess I'll go through. I'll skip one because the one you like, and we're gonna spend some time on it. So this one, this was actually the first property we bought in our development company.
Wow.
So this is just down the street from Woodstock, little town Ingersoll. Picked up a nice little parcel here along the river that we knew had some Upper Thames is our conservation authority in this area.
Okay.
So that we knew we were going to get some issues. This is a better drawing here. So when I bought the property, this red line was the floodplain.
Wow.
And then after we bought it, the Upper Thames magically moved the floodplain up to here, to the blue line.
How did you move the floodplain?
Oh, we didn't move it. Upper Thames just arbitrarily moved it, the conservation authority. So when we bought it, we reached out to them, did due diligence and everything, and they confirmed, yeah, this red line is the floodplain.
Wow.
And then they moved it up, so it's really screwing us over. So we're in the middle of we finished our environmental studies. We're kind of at the final stages of it. Basically, we did our topo and everything, and this bottom blue line is kind of what they're sticking with. So now the argument is parking, because the elevation of it is pretty low. So during this flood here, in our parking, there's only going to be about 4 inches of water. So now we're going back and forth to see because as you know, parking determines how many units you can get. If we can get this parking in this area. So it's kind of split up. There's a sewer easement that runs down the middle here. So the plan is to keep the buildings on that side of the easement, parking on this side. And then we flipped, so we got 3 buildings on there, kind of stacked home, stacked towns kind of model.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we got 60 60 units on this property.
Now, it sounds to me like it's still a bit sketchy as to whether or not this is going to get approved.
Yeah, we probably, so kind of what our backup plan, like the 60 units is a bit aggressive, but we knew that going into it. So it's kind of, going for 60 units, maybe settle on 40 to 50. We can make it with just these two buildings here, the two A's, we can make the parking and property work outside the floodplain.
Can
So
you
we're
can
trying
you
to
go
squeeze
back
that
to
in.
the previous slide?
This one or the render?
No, they're showing me the elevations.
Yeah.
All right, so if you keep moving it around, I'll start puking. All right, so we got these are 3-story buildings or 2?
3. So they're, three. Kind of the basement is a half floor, and then
Yeah, so it's 2.5.
floors,
It's 2.5, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, all right. And you've got a single entrance, right?
Yeah, for each unit. Yeah.
And you go in and to access these apartments, you probably have an entrance on both ends of the building.
No, so there's no corridor, so it's a single entrance for each unit.
So you have no corridors here.
No corridors. No corridors. No elevator.
Yeah. All right. So just stop for a moment now. Let me talk about well, how do you get to the basement unit? Show me with your cursor. How do you get to the basement unit?
Zoom in there.
Maybe blow it up a little bigger.
Should be like, so there's stairs
Stairs
down.
down. Yeah.
And then these stairs come in here to this
Yep.
door, and then you come these stairs, go in your door, and then walk up
Beautiful.
inside.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, just leave it there for a moment.
Yep.
So, the stairwells to the basement unit, or we'll call it lower level because it's really not a basement; it's only half a level down. So we'll call it a lower level. The stairs down to the lower level. Is there a landing at the bottom of those stairs? And if so, how big is that landing?
Yes, there's landing. Like this one here, like this is as far as we got for drawings, but we've done a couple of these. I would say maybe 4 feet by 10 feet by 8 feet, something like that.
That's pretty good. So one of the things that we do with lower level apartments like this, I've got some clients in Toronto who do this kind of development, is they actually make the landing at the lower level quite big, because then it opens up to what I call a manufactured walkout condition.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand the concept there?
No.
All right, so give me 1 second. I'll show you.
Like walkout basement style thing, or what
well, I'll show you. For most of us, probably you're no different. Most of us, we learn best from pictures.
Yeah, big picture guy.
Yeah, me too. Like that's kind of my thing. Yeah. All right. See if I can show you some of. Oh, I wonder if I have. Come on, fire rocks. Let me see if I can find it. Oh shoot. Oh damn. Give me 1 second. This will do it. Yeah, this will give you a pretty good view of it, Jeff. All right, I'm gonna kick you off, and I'll share my screen with you. So this is what I call, on the left-hand side of my other screen, a manufactured walkout condition. So this is a lower level, kind of maybe 3/4 of the way into a basement. And you notice how we dug out, quite a sizable area so that you end up with a lot of light, and it doesn't feel like a basement anymore.
Okay.
Just hang on a second. This is one of my clients in LA. I mean, she's got more money than God. This was her basement. And you can see how her backyard, look at the grade in her backyard.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much excavation she did back here, but it was a hell of a lot. But look at what she's done with her basement. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's her house. I don't even know what it's worth, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's $25 million, something like that. Let's see if I can show you a couple of. Here's a very simple one.
Yeah.
Here's another one.
Yeah, that's something similar like that we'd have there.
But look at this one. This is maybe only 4 feet, but look at the amount of glass you get here, right?
Yeah, that's good.
How about this one?
That's really nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
We've seen that 3 times. Here's another one.
No, that's a good idea to open that up.
Yeah.
What do you call it again?
I call it a manufactured walkout condition. Manufactured walk, because you're excavating, right?
Yeah.
And this one is in London. There's a client of mine in London who did it for her lower level. Look at what she did here. It's fantastic. I wanted to show you one other that I've got. Oh yeah, this one is a Toronto client of mine. Look at their backyard.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And look at this one, Jeff. This one is super cheap to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, how much nicer is it than, just having a door in a dark corridor, right?
Yeah, because we did 2 of these similar buildings on another project, that for kind of client that we partnered up with, and we did it on it was different layout. All the buildings are going this way, but we did that on the back side, but we didn't do it on the front side of those lower units.
Well, we've done it in Ottawa, which is a very difficult climate. We get a lot of snow. It's a very tough winter here. As long as you connect your lower level to the storm drainage and you keep it clear, we have to keep it clear in the wintertime. You don't flood your basement.
Exactly.
All right, and look at this one here. I mean, that is a beauty. And they got a skylight here, and they've got an entire wall of glass. Now, this one here in the middle is another Toronto company, Toronto client. And that one's, I think that's enough. You got the message. One other thing I wanted to tell you about the conservation area. You might also be able to do something with that conservation land with a concept I call playland. We are adding playful elements to almost all of our projects, not just residential projects, industrial projects, shopping plazas.
Yeah, you're saying that, yeah.
So yes, I might have said this already, but this has been just a huge hit for us. Adding, I think I told you, one of the plazas that I own, I put a beach volleyball court next to the pizza place, right?
Yeah.
And guess what happened to their revenues, right?
Yeah.
So your conservation land, I have this theory that tenants that play together, stay together, pay more, and stay longer.
Yeah.
And are happier. And what we do is we just put in really simple stuff. We don't put in the basketball court because that's teenagers drinking beer, swearing, getting into fights. We put in something like giant Jenga, bocce, outdoor ping pong, right? Some really simple stuff. We've also had a lot of success with things like pickleball, large decks, outdoor saunas. I mean, these are things that are easy to do, and as long as you have the conservation authority's permission, you might not be able to do a pickleball court there, but you probably could do a bocce court there.
Yeah.
You could probably put a croquet court there. You could put a table, this is made out of marine plywood, and so it'll last 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. So even if you are constrained in this project, you might be able to do some, I do quite a bit with cornhole as well, if you know cornhole.
Yeah.
And it's the big tailgating game in the NFL. And people just love that stuff. And when they see these playful elements, they tend to rent the space. They tend to stay longer, and they pay more.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of that. All right, back to you.
Okay. So the next one is, I guess, it's an overview. So it's about, this is very, very high level. And like I said, this one is probably not going to go for a couple of years. The front half's not going to go for a bit. So we're kind of subdividing it. This is right on the kind of main street of Woodstock. The Toyota plant, a big Toyota plant's right across the road here.
Okay.
On this side. So the back half here is kind of industrial. Our office was going to go here at one point.
Right.
We sold this parcel off that we're actually partners in, which I'll get to next. So this is just very high level layout.
What kind of buildings are these?
So this one here, which I'll get to next, is commercial condos. This is industrial.
Right.
This one, depending on how this project goes, you might just mirror it. And then this one will be, we were going to put our office there, but it's too small. This will be industrial back here as well.
Yeah.
The front here, so we got gas station and Tim Hortons, which
beautiful.
kind of got lined up. The same owner is across the street. Like I said, Toyota's there. We have a 4-story hotel here that not signed in the books yet, but we have someone who wants to build there. And then just preliminary kind of grocery store, commercial plaza, and then just some more kind of commercial plazas back here.
All right. Can we talk about the hotel for a minute?
Yep.
So I work with some hotel operators in Canada and the United States. Mm-hmm. And on the hotel side of things, one of the things that we found has really helped the hotel is maybe you could stop sharing your screen for a minute and I'll just show you what I'm getting at. You remember I'm an engineer, not an architect, so my drawings are really pathetic. But let's say this is your, oops, that didn't work. Let's say this is your hotel here, all right? Mm-hmm. All right. And let's go here and make this, that's grade here, okay? All right. And the hotel's 4 stories, I guess?
Yeah.
So we'll just do a couple things here. So there's your 4 stories, right? So a typical hotel would have, you know, they'd have sort of the doors here to the main hotel, kind of like this, right? Go in here. And there's these are your doors, right? Go in here and there's your hotel, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't even need an architect. So that's your typical hotel. To me, that's a very poor plan. What we're doing with a lot of the new hotels that we're working on is we're going to a different kind of thing. Believe it or not, on the ground floor, we're building units that face the street and have their own little front door, so to speak, to the world. Mm-hmm. I don't know if and we do this all around the building. So it might go on the side, maybe not on the back, but it would go on the sides as well, perhaps, and on the back possibly. And you've got, you know, your door here, if you know what I'm doing.
Yeah, this hotel, we wouldn't be, well, we'd be building it, but
yeah, but if you're doing it, I'm going to show you how to change the equation and profitability tremendously. Okay. All right, so you sort of see what I'm getting at, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so it has it, and I guess there'd be another door here, right? And they would have you know, their own little front yard, if you know what I'm getting at, like a little sort of thing like this. Oh, I'm terrible at this, right? You know, and then over here. Yeah, I'm making a mess.
I get what you're saying though.
Yeah, I know you do. You're a super smart kid, so why wouldn't you? And you know, so this you can put a table and chairs out there. You can put a barbecue out there. You know, you get your windows are here. You know, got some nice decent windows, right? Kind of like that. These and you're going to also have do I have triangles here somewhere? Not. And these will each have a parking spot like that too. You sort of see what I'm getting. So the ground floor becomes like a motel. You just drive up. You know you can put steak on the barbecue here. You can sit outside with your friends and your family. Go inside here. So if you have any kids, for example, this is a hell of a lot better in some ways than being on the 3rd or 4th floor with the kids running up and down the corridor.
Yeah, yeah.
And something else that is really interesting is we're changing the programs for a lot of the hotels that we're working on, where we would do up here, for example, this would be these would be hotel rooms, right? Like anything else. But on the maybe on this floor as well, hotel rooms. But on this floor here, these could be either medium-term rentals or long-term rentals. Now, that is an old-fashioned way of doing a hotel. If you go look through history, most hotels, you know, those big CP hotels that were built all across Canada and Banff and elsewhere, you know, huge hotels, you know, the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, they had lots of people who lived there year round. The New York hotels as well. Now you might ask yourself, why the hell would you do that in a hotel? Have some people staying 1 to 6 months or even year after year.
Yeah.
The reason for that is the amount of staff that you need to run that is a fraction of what you need to run a hotel. And it's very hard to find labor now. You're aware of that.
Yeah, yeah.
So the other thing about doing it like this is that if you do it like this, Jeff, your cash flow is more stable.
Yeah, we're doing one actually in town here for like on our construction side for a client, and I think it's 90% medium and long-term rentals.
Wow.
It's
very cool. Very cool.
It's a division of Hilton. I forget Hilton. I forget what it's called, but yeah, and they got, you know, half kitchens or full kitchens depending on.
Right on. Yeah.
And it's 8-story hotel, and they're basically all yeah, like I said, 90% medium or long term.
Okay, well, you are so far ahead of the curve, Jeff, compared to, you know, like I coach people who are twice your age, right? And they know half as much. That's a compliment.
Yeah,
I'm really, really impressed. I mean, I'm getting to know you a little bit better. But here, something else too that I wanted to say is these ones on the ground are often run differently. Again, so the modern term, I may have used it with you before, I don't know, but the modern term for Airbnb or short-term rental is no longer Airbnb or Vrbo or short-term rental. It's now considered or called digital concierge hotel, because Airbnb is not the only platform. And there's .com, there's Expedia, there's Vrbo, probably 15 more that I don't know about.
They're the brand. They're the Kleenex of short-term rentals, I guess.
They're the Kleenex or the Polaroid. I don't know if you know what a Polaroid is, but they're the Polaroid. So this is the new pro forma for hotels, because again, the cost for running a digital concierge hotel is a lot lower than running a Hilton.
Yep.
And you've already figured out the other thing. So I'm going to save this in your file. Save it in your pictures. I don't know if I have you yet in here. Do I have Jeff in here? Yeah, look at that. I already got you in pictures. There we are. So we're going to call this New hotel pro forma. All right, I'll send you that. It's just a placeholder for you. It's a Firestone original, right? Worth millions.
If it goes, I'll get it framed for my desk.
Oh, God. But you know, these are just ideas, but they're ideas like one of just go a new hotel. Guess that help if I spelled it right. One of my clients, so there you go. Okay, it's just these are pro formas. I mean, they're just placeholders. So one of my clients in the pandemic, he owns 6 or 7 hotels across Ontario, smaller towns from Ottawa sort of to North Bay. You know, he's got about 1,500 rooms, I think. And at one point during the pandemic, he was 95% vacant.
Yeah.
He was really worried. And his apartments or hotel rooms, have already showed them to you, more than half of them were perfectly suited to the micro suite. They already had little kitchens in them and little sitting area, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
So he went from 100% dependent on, you know, overnight stays basically to I think he's now at about 60 or 65% medium term and long term stays. And his staff count is down by 80%.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, you don't have to go in every night, and you know, if somebody's staying for 6 months, they want cleaning, they can arrange it for themselves. I mean, you know, you got to wash your sheets, go wash them. So his staffing is way down, his profitability is way up, his predictability. He's not going back to the overnight stays. I mean, he probably has 30 or 40% of his rooms still for overnight stays because they're not suited for micro suites, but the rest are medium term or short term rentals.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good to have that mix.
All right, so let's go back to your plan again one more time. So we've got the hotel there, which we've talked about. Let's go back. Can we go back to the industrial for a second?
Yep.
Tell me about that building right there on that one right there. Tell me what is that?
This one's just what do we got here? 95,000 square feet.
And what is the ceiling height?
It's whatever I want it to be, but higher.
Yeah, how high is high though?
Like it'd be like around 30 feet.
Okay.
32 feet is what we typically do.
Okay, yeah, that's good. You know, I mean, it's too small for Amazon, but Amazon and Wayfair and those kind of companies, you know, if they typically want 3/4 to 1 million square feet at a time, and
Amazon actually just bought like right here on the kitty corner here.
Very cool. But coming back to this building here, you know, one of my clients, for example, is Pods. I don't know if you know them. They're portable on-demand storage.
No.
The little white bins that you see in front of everybody's house.
Yeah.
Where you can store stuff and they come and they take it away.
I know it is. I just never heard of that, like that particular company.
Oh, it's called Pods. It's one of the biggest in the business. I think it's headquartered in Texas. Okay. You know, and they'll store their containers, you know, 4 high. So, you know, each container, I don't know, is 7 or 8 feet. So they typically need ceiling heights of 35 feet.
Yeah.
So higher the better, and it'll be column free, I assume.
Yeah, like that's a big thing in our area right now, just because like Woodstock's in it's in such great location because it's right where the 403 starts. Wow. So we're great location. We're 20 minutes like to the edge of town, 20 minutes London, 20 minutes Kitchener. You know, on the route from Windsor to Toronto. So it's like since COVID, the trucking companies popping around here is insane.
Oh, it's fantastic. That is, you'll have no trouble. You did mention though, and I had already booted it up previously. You did mention though that you know, you were talking about industrial condos, right?
Yeah.
Have you done that before?
No, we're working on one. We're working on one right now, but we haven't done one yet.
And you know, back in the 1980s and 1990s, I was in that business. This is one of the industrial condos I built back in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
And I just wanted to show it to you today because I thought you might be in this business or might want to at least
Yeah,
know.
no, for sure. Yeah, it's actually because the one probably show you next. We're doing commercial condos, but with the same partner, we're doing industrial condos up in Milton.
Yeah. So that this was a fantastic business for me. And to be honest with you, Jeff, I liked it a lot better than the home building business.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
about 15 trades to do a building like this, whereas just an ordinary home is probably 25 or 30 trades.
yeah. And there's
So
big demand for it right now too.
there's a huge demand for it. Very that's perceptive. Huge, you know. So remember we talked about sheep. You want to be the first 2 or 3 or 4 sheep, not the 10,000th sheep. Yeah. I have been trying to convince a lot of my builder clients to go into the industrial condo space for since I started this coaching practice 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And my success right now is 0. Absolutely 0. I mean, not one. You know, I mean, I've pretty much got everybody somewhere working on one of these models that I think have legs. This one, so far, I'm batting 0 for probably 100.
Yeah, the problem, like especially in our area, is all this like all the industrial taken right now, and all the new industrial that's going up is like 100 plus square feet, and these guys looking into just 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet. There's nothing for them.
So, so what's weird about this? You know, and let's say you and I owned 100,000 square foot industrial building together, and we rented it to, you know, a freight company, and they go out of business or they grow or they downsize and they leave. We've gone from 100% occupied to 0. If we had 25,000 square foot tenants in there and one of them decides to leave, we wouldn't even really notice.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So one of the things when you design your building, you know, there are developers from here to Toronto, to Calgary and Edmonton, down to San Antonio, Texas, all across the south, east and southwest, who are going after the 100,000 to the 2 and 3 million square foot users.
Yeah.
And that's so I don't want you to be the 10,000th sheep. Almost nobody is going after the 5,000 and 10,000 square foot user.
Exactly.
And you're way smarter than, I mean, I love what you're doing, Jeff, and I think that's smarter. So in terms of industrial condos, you know, back in the day, we would go as small as 2,000 square feet. I'm not suggesting you go that small, but we would go as small as 2,000. Ottawa's a much smaller market than where you are, I think. But I don't want to get crushed by the big developers with their 100,000, 300,000, 900,000, 2 million square foot buildings, right? I don't want to get crushed by those guys because many of them are using pension fund money to build, and even today they're in the 3 to 4% range, and your cost of borrowing is probably higher than that.
Yeah, yeah. The big issue with those, because we have kind of a few of them, or we've just kind of flipped a few, is you need a tenant for it, for something that big, and a tenant that big. Well, if you get it over 100, but even like the 30 to 60, is no one that needs that size looks 2 years in advance to build a building. Like they want a building that's already built to move into.
That's right.
So it's hard to even just construct them on a financing aspect.
Yeah. So the industrial condo business, Jeff, if you're serious about that, what my clients are doing, or what we did, is we would build, this building here might be 50,000 square feet, kind of goes like this and around the corner and around the other corner. Maybe it's 75,000 square feet. I don't remember. But what we would do is we would sell probably 80% of our industrial condos, and we'd keep 20% for our own portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we were able to build a portfolio that was, it was a fantastic business. It's just like the home building business, but there are a couple of advantages. One, I've already mentioned, fewer trades. And the second thing is, when you're dealing with industrial users, let's say you have an electrician, a plumber. These people have real money.
Yeah.
They pay for it.
Yeah.
And if there's a problem, 90% of the time they're going to fix it themselves.
Exactly.
They're not going to call you. If you have an office tenant and they get a hangnail, they're going to call you and say, "Hey, listen, can you order a manicurist to come in and fix my fingers, do my toenail?" No, we're not.
I know all about that.
I hope you're not building any office buildings, because I hate office, but I've hated them for 40 years.
We did one, but we had a good tenant. We have Hydro One in a building.
Oh, well, that's a good
building, and couldn't say no, but it's brutal.
They're such prima donnas, and one of my pals works for a big REIT, a real estate investment trust. They own the building where Shopify, if you know what Shopify is, Shopify was in a downtown tower here, about 200,000 square feet. They had the entire building, beautiful fit up. I bet you the fit up was $400 or $500 a square foot. I mean, it's fantastic. Shopify left the building during the pandemic and decided everybody could work from home permanently.
Yeah.
And now he's got a 200,000 square foot tower downtown, 100% empty.
Oh, that hurts.
And by the time you add his property taxes, his operating costs, his repairs and maintenance and all the other, his utilities, he's probably at about $30 a square foot for operating costs, including property taxes, times 200,000. That's $6 million a year. No, wait a second. Did I get that right? He's got 200,000 square feet. I want to make sure I get that right. Times $30. Yeah, it's $6 million a year to maintain an empty office building. Jesus. So I'm not really keen on that.
No.
One other thing I wanted to show you about this thing, again, this is my really, really, really bad drawings. Is if you do some of these industrial condos and they're a little smaller, Jeff, one of the things, if you put in like a 30-foot ceiling height or 35 feet or whatever, and if you look at what we did here, you see how we had windows on the second level?
Yeah.
We didn't need those windows. The reason we did that is so that if anybody wanted to add a mezzanine on a 30 or 40 or 50% of the second floor, they could do that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So, and I'll show you some of the other stuff that this is going back to the 80s. So it was a long time ago now, but so we put in windows on the second floor, windows on the ground floor. Obviously, there's your double doors. You come in here, and it's just a big bay. Take it away. Good luck. But if you wanted to put a mezzanine in, so the bottom drawing here is just the floor plan, right? So you come in here. We did something else that was really cool. You come in here and you turn left. That's your entry to the ground floor. You go up here to the stairs. That gets you to your mezzanine above.
Okay.
What that means is you can have two tenancies in here.
Yeah. So
what we found when we sold these condos, we would explain to people, would you like a mezzanine? So back in those days, we'd probably sell these buildings for, $125 a square foot. Our cost for building it was probably $65. We'd probably sell them for, $125 square foot, which back then seemed really expensive. But we could build those mezzanines back then for about $70 a square foot, so you could average down the cost. So we'd make a little bit of money on the mezzanine, make a good amount of money on the condo, and we would bring down the cost. It still applies today. So
that's good.
So here's the floor plan again. So you might put the mezzanine sort of in the middle of this second level. So the back still has, the full ceiling height, so you can stack whatever you need to stack there.
Yeah, exactly.
This could be a bit of an office space here. And like what we found is, a lot of companies have other companies they work so closely with. So you might have a construction company on the ground floor, and you might have their architectural technologists on the second floor.
Yeah, yeah,
And they work together, right? But they,
yeah,
so that is kind of like a gigaplex idea, if you sort of see what I'm
yeah. It
getting.
is. Yeah, it is.
Very, very similar to that. So these
Yeah,
ideas
it's
are
smart.
rolling around in my head for like a long time.
No, that's smart.
Okay, so, but I love the idea. If you go into the industrial condo business, you know, I probably go to the 5,000 square footers,
Yeah,
and you could have an entire division, and all they do is produce industrial condos.
yeah, because that's so this is like that property what I'm about to show you. It's it's this property right here.
Yep.
So this one is so we actually it's funny. So we sold this parcel
Yep.
to one of our clients, and
Yep.
then we partnered back up with them to
Fabulous.
50-50 to build it. So
Yep.
it's 47 units,
These
commercial.
are industrial units or
No, these are
commercial?
commercial units.
So when you say commercial, you mean like a medical doctor or physiotherapist?
Yeah, anything they have from restaurants to travel agency, dentist, weed dispensary, everything in there.
Okay,
And they're
these are
90 and they're all sold.
okay. So let me ask, what is the average size?
The average size is about 870.
And
870
what did you sell them for?
between 500 and 1.2.
What does that work out to in terms of dollars per square foot?
I'd have to pull up my
Well,
performance.
come on, I got a calculator here. So give me the sort of median price. What would it be?
I had to pull out because I haven't looked at this job in a while because I've been waiting for some stuff. It is slow down here, sharing screen. Just gonna do this quick. Not open for some reason. There we go. Yeah, the median price is uh 592.
$592 a square foot.
No, sorry, 592,000 square
Okay, and
dollars. That's median price.
592,000, and what is the typical floor area? About 800 square feet?
Average is yeah, 932.
Okay, so if I take that and I divide it by 932, I get $635.19 per square foot selling price. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me show you something that we're doing. Yeah. So I'll show you a very simple pro forma for this is for industrial condos in a small town in Ontario. Okay. I mean, I don't know how you do your pro formas, but bankers and accountants, they tend to like, monthly cash flows, and it just becomes fiendishly complex, right?
What I can't see your screen there.
You can't see my screen?
I can.
No,
There you
oh,
go. Yeah, good to go. Yep.
all right, I'll try again. I'll start sharing. So this is an industrial condo project. I'll just show. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
So this is a small project. He's building, I think, four buildings like this.
Mhm.
And these condos are much smaller than what you would build, but they would be 1,500 square feet. And you notice the second floor windows, right?
Yeah.
There's no second floor in any of these, but it does allow you to put a second floor in. And if you did that, you're going to have some daylight.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to share the spreadsheet with you after we finish. All right. So I'll send this to you so you have it.
Okay.
So each building has four industrial condos in it, 1,500 square feet each, 6,000 square foot total. He bought the land. You got to remember, this is small town Ontario. This is not where you are. He bought the land for just under 300,000, land transfer tax, some legal fees and title insurance and disbursement. There's his construction costs. He's using a Butler building, which I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah.
So he put in $200 a square foot, which I think is a healthy number for a Butler building. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
1.2 million for that. Contingencies 96,000, building permits and development charges, architects and engineers. He's got some finance costs, finance fees. There's his total cost. His cost is about 443,000 per bay, right? So he doesn't make a whole lot. He makes about 13% margin on these, which is not really good enough, but that's what he was aiming for. So he was looking at a selling price of around $536,000, which is $358 a square foot. With your commercial condos at $635 a square foot, that is a much healthier margin, I suspect, than what he's getting. All right. But he was satisfied with this for his first building because he wants to get it off the ground. But what helped him actually increase his profitability by quite a margin was he started constructing mezzanines where he could average down.
That's a good idea.
He could do this, sort of gigaplex idea, and he could average down his cost, but he could also drive up his margins. So he ended up with about an 18% margin. All right, still not quite where I think he should be, but do you know what your margin is going to be on your commercial condos?
Yeah, just kind of my all my performers are for rental. So when I switch to condo, it's I'd move around. What's my percentage? Well, my costs total. So my total cost is 15 million, and yeah, like we're aiming to make around $9 million on this.
All right. So let's just figure that out. So the total sales will be about 24 million. So your 9 million divided by 24. Yeah, your margins are much better, about 37.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Well,
yeah, who's the clients of ours that we do hotels for them. We sold them the land, and they went and marketed it, sold all the units, and then came back and said, "Hey, do you want to be 50-50 partners on this and do the construction?" I said, "Yes." Because for that, yeah, we're just using the deposits to pay for everything basically, anyways.
So one of the things that I would probably do to de-risk it, and you've already done it with your commercial condos, is you sold them all.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to make $9 million. So I guess you'll be able to afford some coaching.
Exactly. Well, see, these partners, they're very one of those partners I've known them for through man, like for 20 years, but this is the first deal we've done with them.
Okay.
So they're they're like herding cats. They're all over the place. So
I hate
um,
that.
yeah. So actually, after this, I have a meeting over at my lawyers to review all, because I finally just got all the purchase agreements for these things. I had about 4 or 5 of them. They looked decent, and so before we sign our JV with them, I want everything to go through my lawyer. And they're the whole summer. They want to get together every week, but they don't nothing. You don't discuss anything. You just go for lunch and nothing gets done. So
I
I'm
hate
like,
that.
I'm not looking at this thing until I get all the purchase agreements to my lawyer and reviewed. Then like there's no sense doing anything else until I know those are good. And they said, because we had to switch the building around for zoning and everything, and they sent out notices missing a bunch of stuff. So now we got to send out noticing again. So I had to sit down with them, and everything goes through me now before everything gets sent out.
So Jeff, one of the things that again, lawyers are trying to protect you. I understand that, and I respect that, and I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to cross swords with lawyers. But one of the things that I want you, because you're the prime mover here and you're a super smart kid. So one of the things that I've worked on for a long time, decades now, is to try and rein in my lawyers. I used to have a 65-page lease for my office tenants, 65 pages.
Yeah.
So I went to see my lawyers, and there was a very prestigious law firm, and I said, I would like you to reduce that to 4 pages. They said, that is impossible. We can't protect you properly if we reduce it to 4 pages. I said, okay, you're fired. I fired my law firm. It was a very prestigious firm. They had, they're called a white shoe law firm,
Yeah.
And I said, fine. I understand. We've had some differences of opinion. This is another one. We're not going to be working together in the future. Whatever sort of work you have in process, could you wind it up? Send me a bill, and I'm going to find another law firm. Oh, and they said, well, we should. No. There's been a number of issues that have come up, and so you always want to remember that, with all due respect to your bankers and your lawyers and your partners and your accountants and everybody else, at the end of the day, as I get to know you better, I respect you, and you have good judgment. That you can't buy, and that you can't teach.
No.
You can't teach that. You understand that? You cannot teach. I can't coach you to have good judgment. That's just Jeff.
Yeah.
Zaluski has good judgment. How did that happen? I don't know. It just is.
Yeah.
So that's great. So you are the final decision maker, not your coach or anybody else.
Exactly.
So what we did, I hired a new law firm, and I've been with them ever since. That's a long time now, at least 20 years. And they understand how I work. And we have a 4-page, maybe it's 5 pages, I don't know, but it's a very small, easy to read lease. And I did a lease with Nortel for 100,000 square feet of office space with a 4-page lease, and they were super happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Nortel didn't care. My Texas Instruments didn't care. Apple, I did at least with Apple with that thing. They all said, this is fantastic. It's written in English. We can all understand. Now,
that's perfect.
The reason I did that is, and my agreements of purchase and sale tend to be very simple as well. If I were selling commercial condos or industrial condos, I would work really hard with your law firm, if they will cooperate with you, to reduce it to, basically just a bunch of tick boxes.
Yeah.
Simple stuff. The reason for that, there's a principle behind it, and that is, if you ever get into a dispute with one of your tenants or one of your clients, if you go to court and a judge sees a 4 or 5, maybe an 8 or 9 page agreement as opposed to 65 pages, what the judge will say is, it's obvious that equity and fairness should apply, and they will then decide on the merits of a matter, rather than, if it's a 65-page lease, first of all, you've got to anticipate every problem that you could ever think of, which is impossible. And second of all, the judge will say, because you have such a long lease, I'm going to look to the lease to make a decision here, which often leads to poor outcomes.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you're going through these agreements for your commercial condos, as you develop your business, whether it's commercial condos or industrial or whatever it is, or house sales, try and work on your agreements to reduce them from, you know, the 65-page agreement. Have you seen a typical home builder contract to buy a new house?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have that is actually on my one of my lists to do is come up with a standard lease for all of our kind of commercial industrial leases. But yeah, you're right. It is the way to go. Like I said, these units were already all sold, so they had your classic 65-page thing.
Exactly.
And so what my lawyer's doing now is going through and making sure they fulfilled all those, because there's 65 pages, fulfilled all those clauses to the purchasers before
So
we do it. Yeah.
your legal costs,
Yeah.
your partner's legal costs, your
Yeah.
buyer legal costs are going to be this
Big
amount.
Big
It's
time.
incredibly stupid and inefficient.
Yeah.
And if your lawyer was on a call with us right now, he would give
Yeah.
you and me shit.
It would. And the problem is, it's a good thing I did it, because a lot of it was missed, because their lawyer, it's his cousin or something, one guy's cousin, and
It's getting worse and worse.
He messed everything. So yeah, that's why.
Did you ever see the film Cousin Vinny?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's about this New York lawyer who knows nothing about anything, goes down south somewhere and has to take his nephew, his two nephews out of a problem. They've been accused of a major crime like murder.
Yeah.
And it's the fish out of water story, right? So somebody's cousin, it reminded me of the film Cousin. It's an old film, but you would enjoy it. But
yeah,
you're still young. What you don't want to do is you don't want to bog yourself down over the next few decades with basically, when I went to a 4-page office lease, my competition back then was Compo Corporation, Canderel, and a bunch of others with 65. I think one of them had like an 80-page lease, and mine was 4 pages. When people would see that, I signed up Texas Instruments, Apple, and many others with these simple agreements, and people really appreciate it. And I can honestly say I don't think I've ever had a problem with any of them.
Yeah, that's good.
I really like that. Okay, we're almost done for time. One of the things that I did send you, and we didn't get to it today, but maybe we can next time. I sent you this. I don't know if you saw it in
I did. Yeah.
email. Is one of the things that I'd like to spend some time with you doing is trying to give people that you will be dealing with, whether they're partners or whether you're doing development management with them, a sense that you are completely different from almost any other development manager out there. And so I describe more of a product manager role here, not project manager, product manager.
Yeah.
A product manager in tech is there from the ideation phase to creating the functional program, putting the team together to do the coding, doing some marketing, sales, putting it into the marketplace, obviously improving it and iterating it through different versions. What I described here is a development manager, like what Colonnade-Bridgeport has been doing, for the last 2 decades, very successfully.
Yeah.
They're there from ideation, site search, site acquisition, due diligence, highest and best use, concept plan, spreadsheet analysis, economic feasibility, all of the planning work, zoning, severance, subdivision application, site plan application, whatever it might be. Very, very, very important. Financing, they do the construction, they do the marketing, leasing, and I added sales. Then they don't drop the project because they're often doing the property management. They make sure that all the deficiencies are remedied. They make sure that you get a decent appraisal, that you get a decent takeout mortgage and refinance. And then I didn't have time. I ran out of time when I was doing this. Then we would tag on to the end of this all the property management stuff that we talked about today.
Yeah.
So what I was hoping you would do is you might take what you learned today and have another go at this.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope.
Now, a couple of things. I'd really like to hear from you as often as you want by email. If you are making a decision, you're not sure about something, if there's a planning issue that's coming up, that's, I'm an expert in that area. I know a lot about real estate. So
Yeah.
make sure, to the extent you can, you integrate me into your workflow. And so that could be a daily, or every second day you have another question, you throw it at me, that's fine.
Okay.
2 weeks from now, I would like you to put down what I call a mid-month report, just any questions that have come up that you're dealing with, any achievements that you've done. I'd like to celebrate that and chip in if I can. It's mid-month report. If there's any meetings that you're having where you think I could add something, if I could join a Zoom meeting for 15 or 20 minutes, if it's a planning issue, political issue, meeting with a partner issue, a lender, it doesn't really matter. Or if you're thinking about acquiring a new site, like I said, you put Zoom on your phone and I can walk through. I've got a client in Texas. After this, I'm doing a FaceTime with him because he's buying a new property in Texas, where they made the series Friday Night Lights, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's there. Yeah, that's cool. So mid-month report, and then for next month, what I really want is, again, the more detailed the agenda, the more challenging it is, the more valuable it is. I followed your agenda.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I just kind of want to go overview, but now I got this project we went over, another one that we didn't get a chance to, but one I've been waiting to get going for a few years now. It's finally just at the finish line for site approval, and that's seven apartment buildings. So we just got the okay last week.
Can you add that to the agenda for next time?
Yeah, that's 100% going to be, because
I think we should look through that in detail. And I want you to, if you want, you're going to get the recording on YouTube if you want. I mean, I know it's a couple hours of your time, but there might be a few things that you would go over a second time, because it's education is a really big part of what I do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to open some doors, maybe, and then you decide which ones you want to walk through.
No, that's perfect.
All right, I'll see you soon. And I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too.
I did too. Thank you.
Awesome. It was a great first session.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.